So the final round of the Rugby Championship is taking place this weekend. The Springboks going head-to-head with the Pumas, and all South Africa need from this game is a singular point, and that should secure the Rugby Championship for this year. And in this preview, we'll be looking through at the lineups that these two sides have selected, also the key head-to-head battles to watch out for out there on the field, and then a prediction at the end for, I think, will win this match. But we will go in order of when these sides were announced. Rassie Erasmus, as always, very early in the week, and he dropped an absolutely stacked lineup heading into this contest. Looking through the side, there is hardly a weak link, and it just means that the Pumas are going to have to be on their absolute A game if they want any chance of beating this Boks side. But in the front row, it is Auxonshare who does return from his injury, so he takes the spot of Brian Fenter back. Number 2, Malcolm Marx, and number 3, Thomas du Toit. So those two staying the same as what they were for the last match. Up against Argentina in the locking duo, this is where we do see the same combination. Eben Etzebeth as the number 4 with Ruan Nokia slotting in at 5. It is an extremely dangerous duo. They have a huge amount of ability when it comes to line-out steals. Etzebeth, always physical, and Nokia, a very underrated member of the South African four-pack. Heading into this contest in the loose forward trio, this is where we see no changes for the South Africans. Siya Kolisi as the number 6. Peter Steph du Toit slots in at number 7. He was absolutely phenomenal in the last game. Scored himself 2 tries, was physical, was really causing all sorts of problems out there on the field. And I don't think a game at Twickenham will be any different here. Jasper Wiese, he will slot in as the number 8. Same can be said about him, just minus the tries. He loves putting in big hits, and you always know when Wiese's on the field because normally someone is getting absolutely smashed, and he will do it every single time he puts on that Bok jersey. In the back line, this is where we actually see an unchanged 6 for what we did see last game. Number 9, it is Cobus Reinach. Now, some thought maybe Grant Williams would move into the starting side here, but Rassie once again backing Cobus. He's had a few handling errors the last few weeks, but he does seem to partner very nicely with the man at the number 10, which is Sasha Feinberg Mngumezulu. Now, there is a huge amount that you could say about how that man played last week up against Los Pumas, but he was absolutely phenomenal. 37 individual points scored in that match. He got himself the hat-trick, which actually now puts him tied for second for the Rugby Championship try-scoring tallies, just the one behind Joseph Suali'i, who I have a big feeling will need to score up against the All Blacks if he wants to keep that number 1 spot by the end of this round. But Sasha and Cobus, they will be a dangerous duo. And this is where we actually see 2 changes for Argentina in that 9-10 channel. So whether or not that works, we will have to wait and see. In the midfield, it is Damien de Allende partnering with Kane Moody once again. It was strong last week up against Argentina. And there were talks that maybe we could see a Jesse Kriel move into the starting side, or perhaps Andre Esterhuizen, but Esterhuizen nowhere to be seen for the Springboks lineup, and Jesse Kriel, the veteran, to make his way off of the bench. Out on the left wing, it is Ethan Hooker. Out on the right, Cheslin Colby. So both very dangerous wingers. And then number 15, even though there were injury concerns, he is still going to be playing. It is Damian Willemse to close out the Springboks starting side. Now, also honourable mention off of the bench, it is a 5-3 split here for the South Africans, whereas for Argentina, they have gone with the 6-2, and they announced their side a little bit later, of course, a couple days after South Africa. Looking through at their front row, it is Meiko Vivas alongside Julio Montoya and number 3, Joel Scalavi. So overall, it's what Argentina have felt most comfortable using throughout this Rugby Championship. But of course, in the scrum battle, this is where they really have to be at their best, because South Africa's pack has been pretty dominant throughout this Rugby Championship, and Argentina need to muscle up there. They want any chance of just avoiding that repeat advantage that we can see from the South Africans. In the locking duo, it is Guido Petti as the number 4 with Pedro Rubiolo back at the number 5. In the loose forward trio, this is where we do see a change. Pablo Matera starts at 6. Marcos Kremer as the number 7. He is still right up there when it comes to leading tacklers in this competition. And number 8, we see Santiago Grondona. So they have decided to put Oviedo off of the bench rather than in the starting side. Now, off the bench as well, they have got Juan Martin Gonzalez. So I would say that's from looking at last week's game and perhaps those couple games up against Australia and realising that they haven't been finishing matches as well as they've been starting them. Argentina, and that last 20 minutes could be absolutely vital here. They want any chance of pulling off the upset. In the backline, Benitez Cruz will be the starting 9 with Presiantelli as the number 10. In the midfield, Santiago Chucabarez and also Picado slots in at number 13. So we are really seeing some massive changes here for Argentina, and maybe it is just a case of trying to test everyone in the squad. Of course, we still do have the November internationals just around the corner, so you want to give everyone a bit of an opportunity before heading into those matches. Juan Cruz Malia, he is going to be playing out on the left wing for this matchup, so no Mateo Carreras for this game. Number 14, Batista Del Gui. Now, up against New Zealand, he was extraordinary under the high ball. He goes head-to-head with Ethan Hooker here, so I wonder whether or not we will see a little bit more of an aerial game played by the Argentines. Now, that may not work because Ethan Hooker is pretty solid under a high ball as well, but it might be just something different that Argentina try and throw at South Africa here. That fast counter-attacking style, I think, would play right into the hands of Sasha as well as Damian Valimza. So maybe tactics-wise, there will be a few differences for the Pumas in this game. And then number 15, it is Santiago Carreras. Like I mentioned, a 6-2 split off the bench, so trying to be physical later on and keep up with the world champs. But looking through at the key head-to-heads, first one I'm going to be mentioning is Peter Steph Toy versus Marcos Crema. Now, I know that in this case, you could argue that Peter Steph Toy, even though he is playing as a 7, he is actually playing the blindside flanker role. So you could almost change it and say Peter Steph Toy versus Pablo Matera. And in fact, while we're at it, we're going to add Sia Khaleesi in there as well. So the 2 6s and the 2 7s for these two sides. It is going to be a very physical battle up front for this game at Twickenham Stadium. These two sides love physicality. And Argentina, they do have plenty of it. A lot of aggression coming from that loose forward trio with no Oviedo up until later on in this game. I'm curious to know what Grondona can do. Obviously, there is something there that the coach wants to get into the starting side. And when you are up against Peter Steph Toy in the form that he is currently, and also the quiet work of Sia Khaleesi as well, maybe we will see a lot more of Matera and Crema compared to Khaleesi, but we'll certainly see Peter Steph Toy because he will be down the wings, he'll be in the middle of the field making the hard yards, and he is just overall at the moment showing exactly why he is one of, if not the best player in the world. I know that one gets debated a little bit, but the way that he's playing at the moment, it's pretty hard to deny that number 1 spot. Next battle in this game, I'm going Juan Cruz Malia and Cheslin Kolbe. Now, the thing is, Kolbe made a massive error last week. Yeah, he still probably had about an 8 or a 9 out of 10, even with that. So it does just show you how strong Cheslin Kolbe can be. And also, the fact that he had an error like that, and if anything, that seemed to just motivate the team even more. Put them to that next level. And of course, we all know how that second half went. But Kolbe, he has got that quick step. Juan Cruz Malia, he's made a huge amount of meters throughout this Rugby Championship. He is in the top 3 at the moment, but for Juan Cruz Malia, he's going to have his hands full up against Cheslin Kolbe, but he is the type of player, I believe, who enjoys this challenge. Not having Mateo Carreras may be a little bit of a hit in some regards for Los Pumas, but I also do think having Juan Cruz Malia move to the left wing could be a pretty good move here from the Argentines. And the last head-to-head, it is hard not to say the ones that I mentioned last week, but I do once again think Julio Montoya and Malcolm Marx, the front rowers. Malcolm Marx scoring himself a try in last week's game, also getting himself yellow carded. But once again, that seemed to motivate the Boks even more. Julio Montoya, one of those guys who loves to lead from the front for his Argentine team, but at times they have really struggled to find their rhythm. But when they do, they can be an extremely dangerous side, so they have to find it more times than not here. Get the swing of momentum and then make the absolute most of it. Going into this game, Argentina, it sounds really bad to say, but they can't aim for any less than 5 tries if they want to win this contest. I think it's going to be a high-scoring one. Yes, we might see it low-scoring for a start, similar to what we saw last week between these two sides, but when that second half gets back underway and Rassi's had his team talk at halftime, that is when we see South Africa really just absolutely fire. Argentina have to be on that same level, ready for that attack and ready to counter it as soon as they can. So if Julio Montoya can get his team in the right mentality for the later stages of this game, because it is going to be a battle out there on the field, and they have to believe that they can win this game even though they come in as massive underdogs. If they can do that, this could be quite a close game. But we move on to the predictions now. Argentina, the last 2 games that they have faced up against South Africa, they have conceded 115 points. That's from 2 matches. 115. And it just shows that Argentina, they will have a bit of hesitancy around this game just because of their attacking threat that can come straight back at them. For the South Africans, they have scored 110 points from their last 2 games of the Rugby Championship. They have 43 points to 10 win over New Zealand and the 67 points to 30 win over Argentina just last week. Both of these sides experiencing the same amount of travel heading up to England for this matchup. It is considered as neutral territory, but I know for a fact there will be a huge amount of Springboks supporters in the stands for their side here. And Argentina still get critiqued for being a little bit inconsistent. And I'll tell you right now, if they are having a bad game here, this game could get really ugly. And I hope that that's not the case. I'm hoping it will be at least a little bit close heading down towards the end of the game. But I'll be honest, the way that South Africa are playing at the moment, it's very hard not to give them a comfortable win here. So I'm going to go 47-22 in favour of the South Africans. But honestly, if they play like they did in that second half up against New Zealand as well as Argentina, they could break the 50. Argentina, if they do end up conceding a lot of points, could actually score some more themselves just because of the openness of the game. But I think 47 is about par heading into this game. In fact, I'm just going to have a quick look. So I have actually just looked it up, and I see in the odds at the moment that Argentina are expected to lose by about 14 points. So they are big underdogs heading into this matchup, and I am hoping that their underdog status really does fire them up and give us a great game at Twickenham to end the Rugby Championship. But this game, it is going to be kicking off in the early hours of the morning here in New Zealand. A nice afternoon kickoff for you guys in South Africa. We are going to be covering it on the channel, so anyone who is new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know your score predictions in the comments down below. But it's been a hectic Rugby Championship. Perhaps there's still 1 or 2 surprises left in it, but we will have to wait and see. But thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all for the next one.